Previously, Iki aspired to be a magical knight, but he was born without magical abilities. His family has always regarded him as a liability and has outcast him from the family. Even worse, his own father conspired with the previous director of the academy to keep Iki from attending the class. Still, he didn't give up and kept moving forward, and now, in his first official match, Iki has won against his opponent, and he kept proving himself by winning other matches, but his next opponent appears to be a person with ulterior motives, because she called Iki half a day before their match in the middle of the night. Ayase did have an ulterior motive when she saw that Iki was her next opponent. She would not be able to compete in the 7-star swords competition if she lost even one match. And now Iki was in her way, so she jumped down from the building, forcing Iki to use Itashura to save her. Itashura could only be used once every 24 hours, and there were only 10 hours left in their match. She forced Iki to use his ace in order for her to win against him. Kurano suspected the perpetrator was on the school grounds, but Iki remained silent and offered to accept punishment blindly. Ayase's father fought a duel against the sword eater Kurado from Danro Academy 2 years ago, and they agreed that if Kurado won, ownership of the dojo and family lands would be transferred to him. Kaido went into a coma as a result of his defeat, and now Ayase wanted to compete against Kurado in the 7-star competition, while Iki stood in her way. So the match between Iki and Ayase has begun. However, as the duel begins, Iki attempts to take the first shot, but an invisible attack slashes Iki. It could only happen if Ayase had already set up the traps before the match. Normally, a match could be accused of cheating. But Iki was aware of it and informed Miss Yuri prior to having to turn a blind eye to it as a match supervisor. Ayase believed she had the upper hand now that Iki couldn't use Itashura. But she underestimated Iki's abilities. Iki used his perfect vision to see through every trap she set. And with it, he avoids every slash that was aimed at him, effectively ending the match in his favor. Even after all of this, Iki didn't hold a grudge because he knew her actions were bad but her intentions were good. So Ayase told them about her father Kaido, and how in their fight 2 years ago they didn't even use their real swords. Nonetheless, Kurado defeated Kaido in their match and took over her father's dojo and family land in accordance with their agreement. So Iki decided to assist Ayase and challenged Kurado to a duel, with the stakes of Ayase family property. Kurado was known as a sword eater for a reason, and his reflection speed was even faster than Iki's. With this ability, he was a runner-up in the 7-star sword art festival. But he didn't train this extremely reflective ability. Kurado was born with it. It does provide him with exceptional reflection abilities, allowing him to avoid his opponent's attacks. But it doesn't give him any extra stamina, so Iki took advantage of Kurado's slight flaw and used Kaido's technique to end the match and win for Ayase and Kaido. So, according to the agreement, Kurado left and gave Ayase and Kaido their property. So, seeing their recent developments, Kurano assigned Iki and Stella to a special training camp to hone their skills. However, Kurano actually tricked them into helping student council clean the entire place. Because the academy's representatives were scheduled to hold a training camp there 1 month later, they assumed they were going to a training camp. So, after finishing their part of the job, Stella and Iki went to see the waterfall. But along the way, Stella developed a high fever, so they decided to return halfway, but they had to seek shelter in a lodge due to heavy rain. Stella's fever was worsening, so she asked Iki's for his help in removing her drenched cloth. Iki could barely keep his excitement under control, but his body was truthful. Stella noticed that Iki had a boner, but she was actually happy that Iki was excited to see her naked. She wanted to have sex and take another step to strengthen their relationship. But Iki declined because he wanted to show the world that he was capable of Stella. Stella was overjoyed to learn that Iki was serious about their relationship. However, someone attacked them with their golem. Stella was sick, and the number of golems was too much for Iki to handle on his own. But student council arrived in time to save them, but they were soon outnumbered by them as well. They kept coming because someone was pulling their strings from afar. Then the student council president, Todo, arrived and handled everything on her own with her intimidating technique. Todo, the strongest of the Hagun Academy, is now Shizuka's next opponents. Todo is a lightning user, and Shizuku is of the water element. Normally, lightning would have the upper hand over water users. But Shizuku has her way she can summon her water without any other element involved, like summoning pure water that mean lightning will be useless. But Iki and Stella were still concerned about this fight because the opponent this time is the toughest she has ever faced. Shizuku believes that she needs to be stronger to stand by Iki and be worthy of Iki's love, just like Stella. So, with that hope in her heart, she enters the arena to battle Todo. Shizuku kept her distance from the start of the match, only using range attacks against her. Todo's sword technique Reikiri is said to be the invincible lightning slash from which her opponent has no chance of escaping. However, it has a limited range. But Todo recognized her advantage and continued to use her lightning because Shizuku needed to maintain her water usage so she could tear her out. Despite this, Shizuku kept fighting, but a sudden step attack caught her off guard. It is very uncommon technique known as nukiashi, a stealth-type step attack. Human brain can't take in every information it sees, so some of it gets to brain's subconscious side of brain. And this technique conceals its movement in that side of their opponent's brain in order to catch them off guard. Nene, a powerful instructor who learned it at the same dojo where Todo did. However, Shizuku did not give up and gave her everything. She created a fog area to conceal herself and take her down. And Todo, all she had to do was manage herself in that fight, so Shizuku saw an opening and seized it. But Todo had already predicted her every move, and she defeated Shizuku with Reikiri. She was completely heartbroken as a result of her desire to prove herself. She then wishes to be alone for the time being, but Alice refused to leave her side even if she wished for him to do so. Unfortunately, Iki's father had made another move with a scumbag named Akaza. According to the story, Stella won another match and then she was with Iki. Both became carefree and drifted away as they kissed each other outside. And someone took pictures of them kissing, so Kurano has caught some Akaza's men sniffing around the academy. Akaza is a member of the International Association of Magical Knights and a member of the Kurugane's branch family. He is one of Itsuki Kurugane's henchmen. It means that Itsuki is using underhanded tactics to prevent Iki from becoming a magical knight, and their underhanded tactics began to bear fruit as they spread the false rumor of Iki and Stella having an indecent relationship through the media. So, as the newly appointed head of Japan's Etiquettes Committee, Akaza arrested Iki for this scandal. They won't even let Iki justify himself as the questioning beings, because Akaza wanted a full confession from Iki that he had indeed defiled Princess Stella. And the rumors have now spread to the point where it is difficult for Stella to appear in public, and now they've even made plans for Iki to participate in the match at the HQ rather than the academy. Stella begins to regret her feelings for Iki, but Shizuku uses force to make her understand that everything Iki is going through is solely because he loves her. Day after day, Akaza forced Iki to fight without any preparation, purposefully tiring him out, and not even treating him properly in the cell to weaken him. Stella was successful in keeping her promise to compete in the 7-star competition, as was Iki. So Iki asked to see his father, and when they met, Iki asked his father if he would acknowledge him if he made it to the 7-star festival. Even if he wins the 7-star festival, his scumbag father will never acknowledge him. Iki's father regards him as an insult to the Kuruganes and a liability in the family because he was born without magic. And he never expected anything from him because Iki was unimportant to his father. He was devastated after hearing that from his own father, but he continued to win every match. Now the committee has decided not to pursue it further. If Iki wins his last match against Todo, and everyone knows that Iki was mistreated by the committee and still made it to the finals. That's why Todo didn't want to hold back, because it would be an insult to his hard work and struggle. So the match day arrived, but Iki was nowhere to be found. Kurano reminded Akaza that it was their responsibility to ensure Iki arrived on time, but he dismissed it as a result of a communication error. But in reality, he left him to come to the arena by himself in order to tire him out even more so that he wouldn't have any strength to fight. But Iki had the support of all his friends he made throughout his journey up until now. And, with their help, Iki entered the area to fight Todo. Iki used his final move, his ace Itashura, from the start of the match. Because Iki knew it would be pointless to prolong the fight against Todo at this point, and Todo also used Reikiri to defeat Iki, Iki poured all of his strength into one final strike. Even so, he wouldn't have been able to defeat her unless Iki actually expanded his limit to surpass Reikiri. As a result, he defeated Todo. Akaza still desired to get rid of Iki, but he was expelled. So, in front of the entire world, Iki proposed to Stella for marriage, and she accepted. They were then chosen as the Hagun Academy's representative for the 7-Star Sword Art Festival. And so our story concludes. For more recaps, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to receive the most recent updates.